This is Tyler Williams, Nebraska Extension Educator in Lancaster County. Today is Friday, November 6th, and we're going to go over the latest AgClimate update for Nebraska. The warm temperatures last month and most of this fall have definitely made a pretty pleasant start to the fall season. Temperatures were mostly above normal all across the Corn Belt and the North Central region, anywhere from 2 to 4 degrees to upwards of 6 to 8 degrees above normal for Nebraska and parts of the western plains. Precipitation was also quite lacking. You can see less than an inch of precipitation for the month for eastern Nebraska and less than 2 inches for most of Nebraska. You can see this spanned most of the Corn Belt and North Central region and has really put a hamper on soil moisture for wheat planting and cover crop growth. Now, these dry conditions didn't just happen this month. They've been sort of happening the last couple months, especially in southeastern parts of the state. And that's why you see this increase in the drought monitor for Nebraska released this week. The dry conditions and the warm temperatures have kept the soil moisture, the soil temperatures quite a bit above normal, but they're starting to decrease now with temperatures in the low 50s in the southeast and soil temperatures in the upper 40s in the northwest part of the state, kind of hovering around that critical temperature of 50 degrees for anhydrous ammonia applications in your fields. Now, if we take a look at a few locations in Nebraska as far as average temperature and temperature range, we can see that there again was a big temperature range in Nebraska in October, which is not uncommon. Highs in the upper 90s and lows in the lower 20s. This is a part of the deal that we get when we change seasons here in Nebraska. Precipitation had a little bit more out west as compared to the east. You can see 2 inches in Alliance and only about a ½ inch in Ashland in eastern part of the state. Now, when it comes to our frost, most locations in Nebraska finally got their first hard 28-degree freeze. Northwestern half received the first 28-degree freeze October 11th through the 20th, and the southeastern half was in the latter part of the month, on October 21st to the 31st. So you can see that some locations haven't received that hard freeze yet, but I assure you it's probably coming soon. So we take a look back at this table. We look at the season length on the right-hand side. You can see that's the number of days between the last spring 32-degree freeze and the first fall 32-degree freeze, measuring our season length. We can see that most locations were above the average for the station that they're at. Holdridge was the only station that was below their long-term average for the year. So if we talk about normals for November, our first measurable snowfall on average comes in the middle of October for the northwestern part of the state and the end of November for the southeastern part of the state. These are based off the climate normals, which are a 30-year average. The climate normals that we're in right now is a 1981 to 2010 and give us a pretty good average of what to expect for November. So if most locations haven't quite seen snow yet, but I assure you it's probably coming with this upcoming system. Now, if we look at average maximum temperatures for November, you see the southern part is in the low 50s and the northeastern part is in the upper 40s. So we get a little bit of a range there that's on a south to north gradient. But if we take a look at minimum temperature, we see a little bit different pattern where it's a northwest to southeast gradient. Average low temperature, minimum temperature is November, the upper 20s in the southeast and lower 20s in the northwest. The precipitation pattern somewhat mimics the east to west gradient that you see with minimum temperatures. Don't get a lot of precipitation in November, 1.5 inches or so in the southeast to less than a ½ inch possibly in the northwest, primarily due to the change from rain to snow. So if we look at changes and trends that we see in some of these climate normals, we look at the trend from 1980 to 2013 for precipitation for the north central region. We see that southeast Nebraska, northwest Nebraska don't really see much of a trend right now in precipitation. But you look at the middle part of the state and they're seeing a decrease in precipitation with some locations of up to possibly 1/10 of an inch per decade trend, the decrease in moisture there. If we look at temperatures, we see even stronger correlation with a positive trend for increasing temperatures. Almost every location in Nebraska and the north central region increasing of 0.6 of a degree per decade, which isn't a lot, but averaged up over a period of time does make a difference in what we tend to expect in November. you can see that some of this is statistically significant, so the confidence is quite high in these trends. A very similar trend here in the average temperature, which is to be expected. If you increase highs, you're probably going to increase average temperatures. So we can see that increasing trend is not quite as strong as maximum temperatures, and we'll see here in a moment when I pull up the November minimum temperature trend. You see it's all over the place. It's increasing some places, decreasing, increasing and decreasing at different rates. This might have a lot to do with the decrease in precipitation. Drier air will allow for a wider range in daily temperature swings. So that may have something to do with why we're still seeing minimum temperatures all over the place, but maximum temperatures increase quite a bit. So if we take a look at the forecast map here is just the 3 days looking out. Looking at Sunday, we see high pressure builds in. The front passed through and most of the rain is headed over to the eastern part of the U.S. That high pressure build in bring in a nice weekend. It'll be seasonable temperatures, highs in the mid-50s to low 60s, lows in the 20s and 30s. The best chance of precipitation comes again towards the middle of the next week. There's a big low pressure trough building in over the western part of the U.S. that will deepen and slide over the central plains probably Wednesday or Thursday. The timing of that is still a little bit unknown, primarily due to the speed and if it continues to deepen as it moves closer. I would expect temperatures to warm in at the 60s ahead of this as that southerly flow brings up warm air and moisture from the south, and they'll probably make it up into our area in Nebraska. With that and the passing of that trough coming through, we could see some significant moisture, but that really depends on how long that it hangs out here in the central part of the U.S. If it moves through fast, we won't see quite as much moisture. If it sticks around, slows down a little bit, we could see areas seeing some significant rainfall and or snow. So something to pay attention to in the middle of next week. After that, we could see a number of these troughs moving through, bring in a number of temperature swings, changes of precipitation, sort of up and down weather for the next couple weeks at least. A little bit different pattern than we've seen before, as the storm systems will now be moving through our area and instead of sort of up and around our area. We look even further out. It gets a little bit hard to predict exactly what's going to happen, except that some of these patterns might be coming through. The longer term outlooks from the Climate Prediction Center, their 8 to 14 day forecast through November 19th. This has above normal temperatures for areas east of the Rockies and below normal for areas west of the Rockies, and that's primarily due to the trough over the west and the ridge over the east. This pattern looks to continue, I think, for at least the next couple weeks, although we will see a number of these temperature swings, so it won't stay t-shirt weather. We're going to be brought in, or some cold air will definitely be brought into our area, and we'll just, over the long term, we'll probably average. Precipitation, we've got below normal precipitation, as a lot of that moisture will sort of expand as it passes through the central plains and gets into the eastern part of the U.S. As we look farther into December, January, February, later this winter, the pattern's still predicted to be the same, with above normal temperatures in the northern part of the U.S. and below normal temperatures in the southern part. This may shift a little bit with the trend that we're in, a pretty strong trend of cool in the west and warm in the east. We'll see if some of these long-term temperature forecasts change with that trend. The moisture prediction is still relatively similar, with expected moisture in the south, primarily due to the El Nino that is present in the Pacific. You can see that a portion of that moisture is expected maybe to come up into Nebraska, but I don't know how that will look as we move forward into the future. And again, this is Tyler Williams, Extension Educator in Lancaster County. Thank you for joining in and listening in today. If you'd like more information on weather and climate in Nebraska, please visit my blog at agclimatenebraska.weebly.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at TylerW_UNL. Thank you and have a good day.